Hi. Last year, which was 2022, it seemed to be a particularly bad year for lightning damaged intercoms. We had more lightning damage sets last year than I can remember having probably in the last 10 years in a single year's time. Two of them in particular that were extremely bad, and I'm going to show you those today. They're both 4406s, they're both IMAs, and they're both from the early 2000s. This one came from an installation that was in Missouri, and it was sent in by a fellow named Evan. Evan is a local central vacuum guy who has a customer that has a really big house apparently, and she's been his customer for a really long time. Her house got hit by lightning and damaged all kinds of things in her house, including the intercom system. Since it was a long time customer, he got a hold of me, and between him, who did all the legwork, and me, we were able to put together enough equipment to get her system back up and working again. Most of the time, lightning damage sets can be repaired in some fashion or another, but in the case of the two you're going to see in this video, they weren't. So let's sort of take a look at them. We're going to sort of peel the layers off the onion, I guess. Take a look and see what's what. The point of entry for lightning damage on intercom systems can vary a whole lot. For the most part, a lot of lightning damage falls under the category of we had a big storm, we had thunder and lightning, and lots of times lightning will hit a power pole or a transformer in the ground and cause a voltage surge, which causes certain types of damage to intercoms. The other type of lightning event can be you'll have a big flash of lightning and thunder in the sky almost immediately one after the other, and it'll be like right over your house or the area where your house is located. In those cases, lots of times what happens is while your house may not have been hit by lightning directly, there's a lot of static electricity from the lightning in the atmosphere, and it will find its way into the master station through the spider web of wires that connect all of the remote speakers and everything back to the master. And that's what most likely happened in both of these two cases. This particular house in Missouri has an indoor pool, which by default means it's a big, giant, fancy house, doesn't it? I think it does. And this happens to be the wall control for the speaker that's in the pool area. And this would be a NuTone IMA4406 WHW, which is an outdoor patio control, even though it's in a pool room, but it's a humid area, so you'd use a patio station. Generally speaking, with lightning, remote stations and things don't really get damaged. They're peripheral equipment, and most of the damage is not any active components in it to speak of, so the damage is usually all here in the master station. But this is the pool control that came out of the house in Missouri, and if we look at the back of it, you can see this has been severely damaged. You can see all the charring and burn marks on the back of it. In fact, if you look really carefully, you can see little shiny bits of copper here, 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 around in here, down here. Those are the copper traces where the lightning has burnt away the conformal coating, the covering and the solder mask over the copper traces, so now they're exposed, and you'll have all this burn area down in here. To give you some way to compare, here's the exact same board. This is a brand new one. This is what it looked like before the lightning struck, and you can see all the shiny little solder pads and points and the circuit traces under the green solder mask and all like that. So this is what it looked like when it was new, and this is what it looks like after it gets hit by lightning. Along with that, this is the chime module out of that intercom. This is an IA29. And if you look here, you'll see around this diode right here, it's all darkened. This has overheated and burnt out. And also, if you look here, this is the microprocessor that contains the operating system and the tunes for the songs. If you look right here, you've got this brown blob on the sticker. This is where the die would be. The die is the actual active solid state components inside the microprocessor, and here it's shorted out, overheated, and made a burn mark on the label. If we get to the master station itself, I've already disassembled all that. That was kind of part of what I needed to do to be able to evaluate it and give Evan an idea of what was going on with it. So we'll take the power module off of it here, and if we look on the back side of the power module, you'll see right here you have this darkened burned area right here, which on its own doesn't actually look all that bad. However, oh, and there's also this one up here, which is sort of off part of the star grounding of the board, and it's actually burnt traces. Here's a trace that's kind of burnt, and you can sort of peel it off the board. But if you turn it over and look down in here, right down in here, you can see this white blob. This is one of the primary voltage regulators, which has exploded, and it sort of has spewed its guts. Hard to do this backwards. Spewed its guts all over the board right here and sprayed out across the board. This was seriously overloaded, and the board actually has physical damage. If we move on to the audio board, which is this one, if you look at this side, it looks pretty good. Oh, I don't see anything wrong with that. However, if you turn it over on this side, we have this giant burnt area right here, and it's the same thing where you actually have the copper traces burnt away. Some of them have vaporized, and like this one, you can just literally peel the remnants of it off the board. And then we have the main board, the microprocessor board, which is this board on the back of the set. And if we look right here, we have another giant burnt area. And actually, if we put the audio board back on top of the set the way it goes like this, the burnt marks on the back of the audio board line up with the burn marks on the microprocessor board. It's most likely flashover. Don't know which board got hit first, but the voltage and current were high enough that it's arced over from one board to the other, or back and forth and back and forth. So this area is all burnt up. This is particularly bad because, again, it's physical damage. The little traces are all burnt away. And in this area right here, there's at least, as I count them really quickly, there's like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, maybe 18 little traces that go through this area. This is not a repairable situation because the traces are burnt away and you can't repair small traces like that in that quantity. The other thing about this set is, here's our microprocessor right here. This board gets jolted this badly, odds are this is blown up. So what does all this mean? You've got a blown up microprocessor board. You've got the CD player assembly, which may or may not have worked before the lightning strike. Most of them don't work at this point. It does have an expansion board in it. Now, the expansion board doesn't show signs of any kind of physical damage, although I did not take it out. It may be that that's a repairable board because without physical damage, it would just be component damage, and there isn't anything on the expansion board that actually couldn't be replaced. So, and because these have use, they have value, that may be something that we scavenger out of this. But as for the rest of it, it doesn't really have any value. This board is blown up beyond repair. This board is blown up beyond repair. The power module is blown up beyond repair. The chime module is blown up beyond repair. And, well, patio remote, you can refix that. Nobody wants that. There's no reason to fix it because replacements are not that hard to come by. So what do we have here? Basically what we have here is a pile of junk, because you can't reasonably scavenger much off of a set like this because you can't have any confidence that any of the other components on it have any real use or will be reliable in the future. Patio remotes, nobody cares. Chime module, blown up microprocessor, that's toast. Burnt up power module assembly, no. The only thing that's really of any value in this at the moment is maybe the big aluminum heatsink. It can go to the recyclers and maybe you get $1 for it. This board, you might think, well, there's a lot on there that's not blown up, but almost everything in this area are parts you can buy new today, so there's no point in taking those off. The most valuable thing on here would be the tuner module, and there's 2 ICs that have to do with tuning, one here and one over here, but if this board has been shocked by lightning, how reliable is any of that going to be? You know, if you pull the tuner module off, maybe it works today, maybe you use it in somebody else's set, and maybe 8 months later it dies because the components in it have been shocked from the lightning, and I don't need that kind of problem. And this board, microprocessor board, again, the microprocessor is the most valuable piece on something like this. Odds are it's blown up and it's not really worth taking off. So this set, maybe scavenger some cables, some connectors, some mechanical things like that. But as for the rest of it, it's toast. It has really no value or any use. So let's go ahead and we're going to pack this up. After this thing gets scavengered down for its few remaining valuable parts, which few being the key word, all the boards and everything go to the electronic recyclers, the plastics go to the plastic recycling, and everything else goes in the dumpster. Then we have set number 2. Set number 2 is another IMA4406 from the early 2000s. This one came from a low voltage electrical contractor for a customer in North Carolina. His house also got hit by lightning, and it has somewhat similar damage. On the back of the power module, we have a big burned area right here. And again, oh, and I should mention on Evan's set, the first one we looked at, I'm going to patch in a picture of the terminal board. I didn't talk about that, and I should have. What we did for Evan was I had a used 4406 that was cosmetically almost perfect, and I rebuilt it to the nth degree and made sure it worked correctly, put together an expansion module to put in it, and made sure everything worked fully and correctly. We sent it to him because along with that, the other parts that you didn't get to see are he had 2 801T low voltage transformers that needed to be replaced, 2 IS449 patio controls, and the patio remote that you saw. When he got it all back, he worked really hard to reinstall everything and found that there were, out of the 15 stations, there were 5 or 6 that he couldn't get to work correctly. He called me several times during that day, and we sort of worked through the steps of doing the troubleshooting. And in the end, what he found was the terminal board, which is the board where all of the wiring from all of the remote speakers gets connected behind the master station. He finally figured out that he needed to pull it out and take a look at it. And when he unwired it all and took it out of the wall housing, what he found was the traces on the back of the board were all burnt away. And I'm going to patch a picture, and I don't have it here because he didn't send it to me. That came up later. So I'll patch that in right here, and you can take a look and see what that's like. All right, back to North Carolina. So we have a blown up power module. Again, not repairable because the traces are burnt and there's no point. Then we have an audio board here. This one is actually worse. This side looks great, looks like brand new. Not a problem there, right? Wrong. Turn it over. You have actually a burnt area that's probably 3 times as large as the other one. You've got the same situation where you've got whole copper traces that are burnt away and burnt off the board. So this board is toast, literally. And then of course, to follow that up and see what we have right here, let me pick this out of here and show you right here. This is a copper trace off one of the boards. This actually burnt off the board. The adhesive that holds it onto the fiberglass substrate has burnt away, and the solder mask, the green stuff that covers these, has burnt away, and it's burnt off and fallen off the board. This is what happens sometimes with lightning. And then we have the microprocessor board right here. Another big giant burnt area. And again, it's the same problem. It's burnt the traces here, it's burnt all kinds of stuff here. And actually, if you look down here on the plastic, which is a little hard to see, right? In this area, you can see it's sort of speckled with black residue. That's from where this damage happened. So again, it's another set that is toast. Literally, it just is. Again, it does have an expansion module, which is good because, again, can probably be rebuilt and salvaged. But as for the rest of it, it's got no real value. The faceplate's not outstandingly great. I have several slightly discolored white faceplates. So again, it's just not really a thing to hold on to. So this one, pretty much the same situation. blown up microprocessor board, blown up audio board, blown up power module. We did the same thing for this customer as we did for Evan. We had a used set that was very, very, very nice, and we rebuilt it all completely to make sure it worked correctly and sent it to him. In this particular case, because I didn't know exactly what we were going to find and I didn't want to hold them up, I sent them a terminal board to go along with it because I told them if you need it, use it. If you don't, then send it back or just hang on to it for somebody else. It was a bad year for lightning damage sets. We had a lot of lightning damage sets from other places also. Florida, Texas, Mississippi, South Carolina, places like that. Fortunately, most all of those sets, it wasn't as extensive as these two. They were sets that actually could be repaired because while they had lots of blown up components, they didn't have the kind of physical damage that you see here. People ask me all the time, is there anything you can do to prevent this? The short answer is no, not really. Lightning is a force of nature. I always tell people lightning is going to do what lightning is going to do. It's a shame that sets like these get blown up like this occasionally, but it does happen. I hope you found this interesting, and maybe for someone it will be helpful. If it is, give it a thumbs up on YouTube because that helps us just a little bit. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications. And every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.